Hey kindergarten, it's time for your spring week 7 art class. Before we go too far though, I'd like to take a look at some of our good examples of birch trees from last week. Last week we worked on the paper birch tree. We worked on the little details of those kind of lines or bumps. We looked at how you can see through and into the sky behind it, and we did the detail of the leaves. So congratulations, you guys did a really great job on these overall. Before we get farther with this lesson today, you're going to go to this website. I'm going to have it linked in your Seesaw, so don't worry, you'll be able to get to it from there. You're also going to need to either screenshot or download the picture that you're going to make there. Before we go too far, let's take a moment to remind ourselves what our expedition information is. Our guiding question or theme is that we've got the whole world in our hands. Your connection is that you have been learning how to draw trees and how to draw and identify the parts of the trees like the roots and the branches and the leaves. And your learning target today is I can begin to learn about paper collages. Now, we've talked about the design process before. Where are we in this current step? We're kind of in between or around the emphasize and the define steps because we're going to be talking about paper collages and then we're going to be learning about them. And we might be kind of getting into the ideate too because we're going to try and practice or we're going to come up with ideas on how to do it. So what is a paper collage? A paper collage is artwork that's made up of lots of little pieces of torn paper that are glued down on one big piece of paper, and they make one big picture. You can see that this little girl's face is made up of lots of little pieces of torn up paper. Her hair is torn up paper, but when she glued it all down, it made a face. Same thing for this kind of tree over here. We're going to be making something like that next week. This week is us practicing these with a virtual setting and starting to get ready when it comes to tearing up our paper. So I'm going to demonstrate to you how we're going to practice online first. And it's going to require you using this website, which I'm about to show you right now. This is the Tate Museum website's paint program. This has been just, in my opinion, this is one of the best online programs I found, and I really like one of the tools that they have. I think it helps us visualize or figure out or imagine what our collage will look like. So when you click on that website, it's going to take you here, and you're going to first pick the big green button. You're going to go to Let's Create, and you're going to choose the blank canvas. Next, we're going to come down here and we're going to, remember, this button is what makes the menu come and go, up and down. So we're going to select the paintbrush with the square top, and you're going to end up using the light green or the dark green or the blue. We're also going to need to use the brown. And we're going to practice making one of the trees that you did with me. So here's an artist tip. The first color to do is the sky. So we're going to pick, remember, we're picking the square paintbrush, and then the light blue, and then click the blue button to go down and start to cover the sky. Just go ahead and make that sky go all the way down. Alright, and if you look very closely at it, that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to use that tool brush, is because it makes lots of different little shapes. You can see, especially if you look right here, it's got lots and lots of circles, and they overlap and they touch on top of each other like our paper is going to do. This is a good way to visualize or imagine what our collage, is going to look like. So we're going to come back down here, press the blue button. This time we're going to go for the light green And we're going to put the grass on the bottom. Now we're going to come back. We're going to grab the dark green and start the top of our tree. We're just going to do the oak tree for our practice. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the button again. We're going to scroll over until we get to the brown. And we're going to practice, we're going to make our tree. And don't forget to add branches. And you can even put some roots down. And that is going to be our way that we're going to practice making our collage. When you are done, come over here to the right and look for the big green button with the check mark on it. And it's going to ask you, are you finished? Say yes. Ta-da! And look, this easy part down here, hit download. And it's going to send, if your computer is like mine, it's going to tell you that you downloaded it down here. You can find it. If you go into your computer and you look for the downloads in the download folder, you'll see that it's right there. It'll be called Tate Paint, and it'll pull up its picture. Then when you are done, you can post this picture. You can drag it, you can email it to me, you can put it up on Seesaw, and I'd love to see what you guys get done. So next we're going to look at what it would look like compared to what we're going to do next week. So this is an example that I made on the website, and then this is what the collage, the paper collage, will look like. So take a moment and see what kind of similarities or how do they look like. Why do you think we wanted to practice online first before we start doing this one? All right, and the last thing that we're going to start looking at is we're going to get ready for our collage. If you don't have any kind of colored or construction paper, you are very welcome to use magazine paper, like if you have some magazines sitting around, or you can color your own paper to make it. And these are two examples of colored paper that I made for it. This is right here for the redwood tree. I colored red and then brown, and I don't have any brown construction paper, so I just colored a piece of white paper and with brown crayon, and I'll use that to make my pieces. So let's talk about how we're going to make these pieces. So I'm going to use two different things here to show you what I'm working with. And I'm going to move my camera down a little bit. So I've got blue construction paper, which I had some. And like I said, I didn't have any brown, so I had to make some. And we are going to start tearing up these pieces, or whatever you have that you can use. And this is just going to help you get ahead of things. If you don't get to work on it until next week, that is okay. It can help, especially if you have some extra time, to start getting your pieces ready now. So when we are tearing these pieces, you want to tear some of your paper just a little bit, then tear it into smaller pieces. So when I mean smaller pieces, I mean pieces, if you happen to have one nearby, more or less the size of a dime. So yeah, so about the size of a dime. Don't do itty bitty tiny pieces. This would take you way too long to glue everything down if your pieces were this tiny. That would be so small. It would take a long time. But that's too big. Too small, too big. Too small, too big. Look, I can get 1, 2, 3, 4 good pieces out of that one that I just tore that was too big. And then there's probably 4 of these tiny little pieces out of those. So that's a good size. If you don't have a dime nearby, try and do it around the size of your thumbnail or your mom or dad's thumbnail if they're helping you out. And the next thing that you need to do is, once you have gotten your pieces torn, it will be very helpful if you keep them someplace, and since they're gonna be kind of a mess, you want to make sure that you're keeping them in, and this is just easy to use, a Ziploc bag. It's just a great, easy way to keep yours together. It's okay if your colors get a little mixed up because you're going to be able to pick them apart and you can put them together on the paper. So just make sure that you're keeping everything in a spot. And again, also make sure you close it so that you don't have all that paper flying around all over the place. So this is just if you have time to get ready for your collage from next week. This is a great way to also spend some time and get ready. So that's what we'll be working on next week. We're going to start our paper collages of our trees. I'll see you then.